Good morning everyone. This is Kamikawa Kaelin. In the previous video, about herd immunity, Sweden and India had many casualties in the early stages of infection. In both countries, the number of infected people and deaths is decreasing, and it is believed that they have acquired herd immunity. The immunity is neither long-lasting nor suppresses infection. It only prevents serious illness, but in South Korea, why does the number of seriously ill people not decrease even though the vaccine is given the most in the world? Why is herd immunity not possible in Korea? Why did K-quarantine fail? On the other hand, in Japan, the number of infected and severely ill people is decreasing, and it seems that herd immunity has been acquired. Despite being evaluated by the world, only South Korea has an unfounded and ugly habit. By the way, when it comes to herd immunity, Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro comes to mind. Since the start of the pandemic in Brazil, 22,055,238 people have been infected and 613,642 people have died. Until around June 20, 2021 as a country, the number of infected people continues to increase in Brazil, despite the lack of cohesive infection control measures. On June 19, the death toll from the new coronavirus exceeded 500,000. It was the second largest number of deaths in the world after the United States. The spread of infection in Brazil, delayed vaccination and the arrival of winter could make things worse, warned several experts. However, President Bolsonaro of Brazil refused to promote infection control measures such as social distance. The status of infection in Brazil is mutant strains called gamma strains, first identified in the Amazon basin, etc. It was aggravated by the mutant strain, which is more infectious than the conventional strain. The average number of newly infected people confirmed per day is 70,000, and the usage rate of intensive care beds is more than 80% in most states. On the other hand, only 15% of adults have been vaccinated in Japan. After July, it was feared that the infection would worsen when winter came to the southern hemisphere. President Bolsonaro, if you implement strict behavioral restrictions such as lockdown to prevent infection, he argued that the impact on the economy would be worse than the virus damage. Mr. Bolsonaro has been a pandemic since the beginning. Infectious disease COVID-19 caused by the new coronavirus is disregarded as just a cold. He remained skeptical of maintaining social distance and the effects of wearing masks after he became infected. So what happened to Brazil after that? Currently, the number of infected people in Brazil is declining. On average, 9,325 new cases are reported daily, compared to June 23, when the average number of people per day peaked. It has decreased to 12%. The vaccination rate in Brazil is still around 60%. Looking at this trend, I think it is a movement similar to India. Once an outbreak has occurred, despite incomplete vaccination, the country as a whole is heading towards convergence. Perhaps after a while, the next wave will come out again. This is clearly due to the increase or decrease in the number of people who have acquired innate immunity. Unfortunately, it seems that the antibody prevalence has not been tested, so it cannot be verified. Looking at these, the current outbreak of infection in South Korea, as it will be clear that the cause is not yet immunized as a group. So what was the reason for not being able to obtain that herd immunity? I think there is a problem with K-quarantine here. Sweden and Japan, which allowed mild subclinical infections, South Korea must learn why it is not currently causing a pandemic. But depending on where the current peak of infection stops, the tuition fee seems to be expensive. It seems that the time to pay the high tuition fee has come to Korea. It cannot be solved by repairing with lies. That's all.